Hey everybody, so today I thought we could color this super cute CC Designs image called Elsie. And so I've already stamped my image on Nina 80-pound Solar White cardstock with Memento Tuxedo black ink. So let's color. So let's start out by outlining our image, and for that I'm going to use C0. And I'm just going to start down here at her shoe and work my way around to the other side. And I like to do this just because it makes it look like it pops up off the page just a little bit, not quite so flat. Just work our way around. And this way too, if you do it first, if you get some on your girl and you want to erase it, it's a lot easier to take your colorless blender and just scrub it away. But it's such a light color that lots of times if I get it on whatever I'm coloring, I don't bother erasing it because I know I'm just going to cover over it when I do the coloring. Over bonnet and just work our way back down to her shoe. Next, let's do the ground, and for that we're going to use E44, E43, and E42. I'm going to go ahead and start with my E44. And I always try to start a little bit, I don't go straight across from the bottom, I bring my color up a little bit onto whatever happens to be there, so in this case her shoe. And I just brush away, same for the back, you want to go up just a little bit. And I think I'll bring this out just a bit more here. And then I'm going to grab E43, and I always touch down on top of my last color, and you can brush this as far out or as short as you would like. And then we're going to add E42. Get a little bit closer to the shoe there. And then after I've got all the colors that I want on there, I like to go back with my darkest shade, which is E44, and add a little bit more shadows in. Next, since we got the browns out, let's hop up here and do her hair. And for that, I'm going to use E44 and E43. So I'm going to take my E44 first. And just add a little bit here underneath of her bonnet. And here's a little spot of hair. And then up here. And then where a little curly Q kind of goes down, I'm going to add a little bit. And then I'm going to grab E43 and just fill that in. It's just a little tiny bit of hair, so I didn't bother putting a bunch of colors on there. Okay, for her skin, I'm going to use E11, E21, E00, E000, and for her cheeks, I'm going to use R43, R20, and R30. And I'm going to go ahead and start down here on her leg. So I'm going to start with E11. And I'm just going to brush a tiny bit on there. That. And then I'm going to grab E21. Brush right over the top. And then E00. And because it's under her skirt, I'm just going to fill it all the way in. It's going to be a little bit darker down there. And then we're going to go up here to her hand. And again, I'm going to start with E11. And I'm just going to add a little bit of this down on the bottom of each of her hands. I'm going to give her hand a little definition there where her finger would be. And same for this side. We'll go along that. And then right here where her finger is, I'm going to put a little shadow in there. And then I'm going to grab E21. And I just want to brush a little bit more on top, just to soften our line. E00. And that leaves us just a little bit of space for our E000 to fill in the top. And again, if you wanted her skin to be darker, when I get all finished, I go back over it again if I want to make it a little bit darker. So next, let's go up here and do her face. And for that, we're going to again start with E11. And I'm going to go down the back of her neck and then right along her bonnet. I'm also going to do right here on her chin. Then E21. I'm going to fill in her neck right down here. And then I want to come across her chin so we can soften our line. And work our way down onto her face. And then E00. I'm going to pull this out here a little bit more. Her face is tipped down, so I'm just going to make her nose be just a little bit lighter. And then I'm going to fill this in with E000. And then I got a little bit of a line right here, so I'm going to go ahead and go over her entire face. Then for her cheeks, I'm going to go with R43. And she only has one cheek, so I'm just going to do a few little dots like that to start her cheek. And then I'm going to go with R20. And I'm going to go right over the top of those dots. And then R30 for the edges. And then I take my E000 and I go over the top just to soften it. Next, let's hop down here and do her shoe real quick. And for that, we're going to use E25, E23, and E21. I'm going to start with E25. I'm just going to do along the bottom of her shoe. Then I'm going to take E23 and give it a little bit of a fill in, but I want to also touch down on top of my 25 so that it will soften that edge. And then I'm going to fill the entire thing in with E21. And I'm going to go over to here a couple of times to blend that line with my 23. And then let's go ahead and do this little water drop too while we got our pins out. So this is going to be B000. I didn't do anything fancy, I'm just going to fill that in. Let's go ahead and do the watering can next, and for that we're going to use C7, C5, and C3. I'm going to start with my C7. Let's add a little dab of that right above her hand and right next to the water bucket. Same on this side, let's do below her hand, and then again a little dab by her water bucket. And I don't use this pin very much, so just in case I don't want it to blob on my paper, I'm going to take the other end of my cap off. That will save me having a big old mess. And let's add a little bit here, and then we're going to curve around and go over to this side of the can. That. And let's go up, and we're going to add a little bit down here like that. Next, let's add some C5. So again, you touch down on top of your your C7, and you want to flick that color out away from your previous color, soften that line. Yeah, we're going to pull this. And I'll probably end up doing my can a couple of times. So I'm just going to go right along here, flick it along. So I'm just not being, I guess I'm just not being as careful with my line as I would if I was only going to do it once. Okay, and then let's also start this right here, and I'm going to do a bit of this color on inside of the can. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now let's grab C3, and we're going to want to fill in the back of our handle. And inside of our bucket. I'm going to leave it white in there because I know I'm going to go back over it again. So I'm going to again start with my C7, and I'm liking the handle, so I'm going to leave that. I'm going to tip my girl here, and I want to bring my bucket, I need to bring this color in a little bit more. That, I'm going to turn it this way so I can flick over here. And let's do this side. I'm going to flick away from our line here. And I think I'll bring my line up a bit more over here, like that. Then let's go with C5. Bring that into our white, fill in a little bit more of that space. And then I'm going to go back the other way because there's still a line there. And then let's go up. And go over it one more time, soften that line. And then of course let's do this side. And again, I'm going back over it so I can soften that line a little bit more. And then let's do the inside of our can again. And then we're going to fill it in with C3. And I'm going to fill in this front portion. And I want to brush my C3 clear across my can so I blend all those colors together. And I think I'll swipe my can one more time. And then I forgot to do this back side of this handle right here. For that I'm going to use C7. Now let's go work on her bonnet and her dress, and for that I'm going to use YG 25, 23, and 21. I'm going to leave the apron for last, so in case I color on it, I can erase it with my colorless blender. So for now, let's go up here and start our hat, and for that I'm going to start with YG 25, and on her little back of her hat right here, I'm going to color this little section in that looks like it's underneath of her hat, and then I'm going to do inside this crease right there. And then I want to go right down the seam of her hat. That. But I also want to brush out just a little bit, and then as I come down I'm going to pull my line out further. I'm going to try not to color her face. Okay, and same for the back of her bonnet. I want to do outline her the whole thing. Like that. But then I want to pull the back of her bonnet up a little bit more. So I'm just going to brush on there like that. Then I'm going to grab YG 25 and I'm going to color right over. I'm going to leave a little bit of white there on the ends of that. And then up here, I'm going to brush this out. And we'll do the back. And then YG23 to 21 is quite a big jump, so I'm going to tip it. So I'm going to take my YG23, the darkest color, and I'm going to touch it with my YG21. And then I'm going to use my YG21 pen to flick over this edge. And I'm going to have to grab some more. And then bring it out when I run out of color, clear to the end. And then I'm going to do the same thing for her little hat back here, the back. I'm going to pick up a little bit of color. And then just fill it all the way in. And then also I'm going to take my YG21 and fill in the bottom of her hat. Okay, and then next let's go down and we're going to start on her dress. I'm going to let that dry a little bit and then I'll come back to that. So we're going to start with YG25 up here on her dress, and I'm going to go down the inside of her sleeve and then the bottom of this sleeve. And YG23. And then I'm going to grab my YG21. I'm going to grab some off of our YG23. I'm going to fill that in. Okay, I like that. So now let's work on the back of her dress. So again, start with YG25. I'm going to go down underneath the bottom of her sleeve and right next to the apron. I'll do that all the way down and clear around to this side. Okay, and so I want my line to be a little bit further out. So, but I put that there so I wouldn't accidentally color on top of my apron. This way I can touch down on top of my green line and not have to worry about quite as much about getting it onto my dress or onto that apron. Let's continue around. And we're just going to pull that line away here just a little bit. Make it a little bit thicker. I'm going to grab YG23. And turn her this way so I can flick a little bit better. I flick best going away from myself. And let's turn her upside down. Okay, that's a good start, I think. So now grab your YG21. Pick up some color off our YG23. And just work your way around. And I'm going to go over it again, so I'm not worried that it's not blending all the way. I'm just adding a little bit of color. And of course get up here underneath the back of her dress a little bit. Okay, now I want to take my YG23 again and just go back over this bottom section. I want to soften that just a little bit more. Turn her upside down here. And then grab your YG21 again. Pick some of that color up. And turn my 23 marker because I've used some of the color off of there, and I need to turn it so that I get a new section. And it'll refill back in later. It's not, you're not going to ruin your marker by coloring, by picking up color off of it. Okay. Now I want to fill in this last section, so I'm just going to take my YG23 or my YG21 and go clear around. Oops. Colored out the lines there. And I want to go ahead and brush over all of this and just soften those lines up. Okay, I'm liking that, but I'm going to go up here and fix this bonnet. So I'm going to take my YG23 and I just want to flick this front part a little bit. And YG21. It was just looking like it had a few too many streaks in there. Alright, that's better. Then, last but not least, we're going to do her little apron here, and for that we're going to use E93, E51, and E50. I'm going to start with my E93, and I'm going to color the inside of my bow. And then I'm going to take my pink color here and just color there in the middle. Add a little bit of color down here on my ribbon. I'm going to grab E51. And I want to brush over the top of that 93. So we now given it a kind of a tan pink color. And then E50 to fill it in. Okay, and for the front, again I'm going to grab my E93, and I'm not going to mess with this handle here, or this little apron tie. I'm just going to make that the pink color here. And then to make it easier, I'm going to make my line right down the inside of my apron so I don't color outside the lines. That way I can set my pin down on top of that line and flick away from it. Makes it a lot easier for me. And as I touch my pin down, I get a big blob of ink, but as I pull away from myself, it's picking up out here and it's lighter out here on the edge. And then grab E51. And we're going to again color right over the top of that color, but we want to brush our brush past the last color. I'm going to go over it again. And then I'm going to grab E50. And let's go down the inside of our apron here. And around that. And fill in some of this space by going this way. Then I'm going to go ahead and brush from this whole side and brush right over the top and fill all that space in. And I'm holding my pen more at an angle so that I'm using not just the tip but the whole side of my pen. And then I got this little underside of her apron here with E93. And then I'm going to grab my E51 and just give it a little dab just so that it makes it kind of a brown color. And then for the collar and the cuffs of her dress, I just left those white. But there's our cute little Elsie all colored up. Isn't she adorable? And then here is the finished card. Very cute. And this little tag in your kit does not come with the sentiment. It comes blank, so you can add your own. I used the Little Darlings Garden Sentiment set that's in the store if you wanted to pick that up. It has a bunch of cute little gardening sentiments on it. But I hope you had fun coloring with me today. If you have any questions, leave me a comment and I will happily get back to you on that. And we'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.